The Banesword was created from the need of a greater siege tank that the Imperial Guard could use to defeat fortifications that their endless, foot-slogging infantry and lighter tanks couldn't deal with. It's a rather recent modification of the Baneblade, only being completed not too long in the distant past by the tech priests. Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and today we're covering the Banesword. So the Banesword is a variant of the Baneblade, unsurprisingly. It comes in at 480 points. It has the standard Baneblade profile of movement 9 inches, toughness 13, 2+ save, 24 wounds, leadership 7+, and OC 8. Overall, this is a pretty solid stat line. It's not super fast at only 9 inches, but it's certainly not sluggish. And toughness 13 is a great breakpoint, as it makes las cannons only wound you on 5s. The 2+ save is of course great and loves cover, the 24 wounds is a huge pool for anything to chew through, and OC 8 is actually pretty solid for contesting objectives. In terms of ranged weapons, you of course have the hull-mounted and the sponson-mounted, either twin heavy bolter or twin heavy flamer, and this is one of the few times where I'd say the heavy bolter is better, for the main reason that Titanic units can't use Overwatch anymore. The twin heavy bolter comes in with twin linked and sustained hits 1, with 3 attacks that hit on 4s at 36-inch range, strength 5, AP 1, and damage 2. Fairly standard, though hitting on 4s isn't exactly the greatest, but standard for the guard. The twin heavy flamer has twin torrent and ignore covers. It has D6 attacks. It obviously auto hits given the torrent special rule. It has 12-inch range, strength 5, AP 1, and damage 1. Then on top of the sponsons, you have the 4 las cannons, which each have 1 attack that hit on 4s at 48-inch range, strength 12, AP 3, and damage D6+1. Standard las cannon profile, but that is not a bad thing, as it very much helps with the Banesword's intended role. And then, of course, the main event is the Titan-class Quake Cannon. With blast and ignore cover, nothing is really safe from this thing. It has D6+6 attacks, so a very solid amount. It hits on 4s at 72-inch range, so really nothing is ever going to be safe from this unless it's hiding. It has strength 14, AP 4, and damage 4. Now, as a main weapon goes, this is about as good as it gets. Strength 14 is wounding everything in the game on 3s, and AP 4, of course, is going to chew through any save pretty much, and you'll only be safe behind invulnerables, and damage 4 is a huge boon to chew through Terminators, as well as tanks. In terms of melee weapons, it's surprisingly, or unsurprisingly tame. It has 6 attacks that hit on 3s at strength 8, AP 0, and damage 1. While not the worst, it isn't exactly great, and will probably only squash a few light infantry. It certainly wouldn't be doing anything to Space Marines or anything tougher. In terms of abilities, he of course has Deadly Demise D6+2, so you really don't want this guy going boom in the middle of your army, and his ability, Armor Obliteration, sort of plays into that. Each time this model's Quake Cannon destroys an enemy with the Deadly Demise ability, it goes off on a 3+ instead of just a 6. This is very, very big, given this thing is quite adept at blowing up tanks in its weight class and below. And of course, if you do this on a tank in the middle of the enemy armor, like say a Land Raider, which this thing handily destroys, it would of course shower D6 mortal wounds in a huge area around it. Of course, you'll want to play into this when using this, though it isn't exactly the easiest thing to play around, as the enemy might not have any vehicles, but even then, with all the las cannons, the blast, and the heavy bolters, this thing's quite effective against infantry as well. And unsurprisingly, the Baneblade is a very worthy tank of its price tag and enormous size. Its massive Quake Cannon is, I'd say, the most general purpose of all the Baneblade variants. Its huge range, AP, and damage, as well as strength, makes it great, and even the toughest targets, like Knights, which it might struggle to kill, would be crippled at the very least. Any tough vehicles, things like Land Raiders and similar, will be almost assuredly destroyed by its 4 las cannons and Quake Cannons. And of course, anything bigger, like Knights, it would be best to chip it down with, say, a accompanying Lehman Russ or something similar. In terms of buffs, of course, Lord Solar Leontis can give it Take Aim, which is extremely useful for the sole reason that they hit on 4s normally, and hitting on 3s is a huge buff. And then another character I'd say is essential to bring along would be a Tech Priest Engine Seer, to not only heal it every turn, which would just add to its overall durability, but also gives it a 4+ invulnerable save, which makes it really, really tough. In terms of other buffs, of course, it's the 2 CP for Armored Might for -1 damage is a great target for that, obviously. And then the Lehman Russ Eradicator, Exterminator, I think it is. The one with the autocannons. The extra AP would be much appreciated, especially by the heavy bolters and las cannons, though the AP 5 on the Quake Cannon might be a little intense. As I mentioned earlier, this thing can handily take down almost anything in the game, with the exception of knights, as they have just slightly too many wounds. So make sure to bring along something to chip them down if you're planning to play into this thing's greatest strength of making enemy vehicles explode more efficiently. Because if you detonate a knight in the center of your opponent's army, they are really going to feel it and really not going to like it. Anyways, I've been Spoons Rattling. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.